Teachers and classroom assistants will have disappeared from schools by September because of a funding crisis, according to a new poll seen exclusively by this programme. It also reveals that half of the 700 head teachers surveyed believe their finances are at crisis point. A planned shake-up of school funding in England, announced before the election was called, drew criticism from many head teachers. But is education a campaign issue? Jane Death reports now from Crawley, West Sussex.
Give yourself a mark out of 10 on how confident you would be of answering it at the moment. So who was Marshall? Who was this guy, Marshall?
Mr Pittman getting his history class match fit for their GCSE exam. Next year he'll have much bigger classes of 30 or more, because finances mean the head of St Wilfrid's had to cut 5.5 teaching posts.
In 3 years' time, when your child is being taught maths by a PE teacher in a class of 36, and there's requests being made by me for you to fund certain parts of your child's options choices at Key Stage 4, that's when it'll matter. But it'll be too late then.
When these pupils start back in September, media studies and ICT won't be available at GCSE. When the budget's squeezed, so is the curriculum. Channel 4 News has been given the results of a survey of more than 700 head teachers from Devon to Norfolk. And most said they're cutting teaching posts. 40% will have lost 1 to 3 teachers by the start of term in September. 20% will be 4 or more down. Most schools will also lose at least 2 teaching assistants or support staff. Before the election was called, the Conservatives had drawn up a new school funding formula which would see St Wilfrid's get more money. But head teacher Michael Ferry says he'd still be £100,000 in the red.
The days of being able to buy cheaper footballs, buy in bulk textbooks, etc., that's just playing around the margins. The only way I can save 6 figures is by reducing the teaching staff. And for the government to say that we can make those efficiencies and not to the detriment of educational standards is just plain wrong.
Schools are the last frontier and a universal service.
Worried education's being overshadowed in this election, head teachers have started campaigning to make it an issue themselves. Jules White, who a few weeks ago talked us through the cuts at his school in Horsham, devised today's survey of head teachers on funding. Only 7% described it as adequate.
Half of head teachers surveyed said funding is at crisis point. And here are some of the responses in the comments section. No money to buy the basics like dictionaries, pens, pencils and books at a premium, and class sizes already 35+.
But will school funding be a big election issue for voters?
In terms of outcomes and attainment, we're not seeing any impact of reduced funding. So at the moment, until parents and pupils can get a more tangible feel of the level of funding in their schools, it may not cut across in the same way as other services might.
The Conservatives say funding's never been higher, but Labour today said it would build a school system for the many, not the few, while the Liberal Democrats vowed to fight new free schools and grammars.
Well, joining us now is the former